All right, what's up? I'm back. This is going to be a maybe quick video or maybe not, but I just wanted to go into the topic of this real quick. This video is not really directed at conservatives or libertarians. It's more for the, liberals who kind of seem to abandon black people just because we don't all support the trans agenda and stuff like that. And some black people voted for Trump because he was talking about economic prosperity and freedom and things like that. But now you're mad. You're like, damn, you voted for Trump. You wanted economic prosperity? Fuck y'all, black people. Or should I say, fuck y'all, niggas. Right? But anyway, I think another kind of aside that'll segue into this topic a little bit is another thing that Terrence McKenna said that I found pretty true. I think it's pretty true what he said there, is that one of the conservatives' biggest problems with the internet was that they were going to need the liberal artistic type people to build up the internet and make the internet popular and something interesting and even build the internet for them. And then eventually they were going to come in and try to wrestle control back from the liberals back into a more conservative thing. So it kind of makes sense that we're kind of in the middle of that right now, what he said. But I wanted to get into the whole, jocks versus freaks cycle that was going on in the suburbs, basically before us black people moved in there, and even some black people from, the surrounding city area. And some people that might not have experienced this, but in the town that I grew up in, it was basically exactly like this movie, Dazed and Confused. It was exactly like that. And I guess since we were the first kind of crop of black people that went to that school or was reached a certain threshold by the 80s and stuff, that it kind of changed the dynamics of the school system in general. And it definitely changed the dynamics of the social structure that had previously existed, this whole dynamic of just jocks versus freaks. We were the runts, there's the runts and then there's the jocks, or whatever you want to call us, the small people, right? So, a lot of people were afraid when they came to high school as freshmen, because a lot of the older guys, they were either brothers with their friends' brothers or just older guys that knew them from, because we were on different sports teams and stuff like that. And, the threats were going around. It was freaks versus jocks. It was literally called that. It was called freaks versus jocks. And they were all threatening everybody. And especially, they weren't really talking to the black guys, the white guys, but they were threatening all the younger white guys, right? And so we got fed up with it because, we had our own culture where we were, outsiders, whatever you want to call us. We cut class, went down to the river, went into the woods, threw rocks, blew up stuff with M80s. We definitely had our hands on a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook at one point in time. We hung out on the train tracks. We threw rocks at trains. That was some of the funnest stuff. There'd be guys sleeping on the train, and we would just throw rocks at their window. We knew the windows wouldn't break, but it was funny. Sorry. Mischievous kid stuff, But anyway, back to this main story. So basically, around that freshman time, the threats were going around. And so we decided to take matters into our own hands, and instead of just letting them individually go around and beat one guy up after another, somebody cooked up flyers, actual flyers, and we hung them up all over the school saying, "Jocks versus freaks, fight in the park Friday. Come to the battle, come to the fight," right? And so we all gathered in the park. There was probably 100 people or something like that. And we were hiding in the bushes and hiding in the trees, waiting for the jocks to show up, right? It's the big park, in the middle of town. And a lot of my friends, they had connects with people in Newark and Irvington and stuff like that. So a lot of those guys showed up too. I remember it was at the point we were sitting there in the bushes, and this one guy from Newark who had showed up, and he had heard that it was going to be like a fight. So this was freshman in high school. He pulled out like, it looked like it was either a 38 or a 22. And we were like, no, bro. This is not that kind of fight. This is not that kind of fight. So there was like 100 of us in the park. We were waiting there all night. And then, you know, one guy walked through the park to see if we were really going to be there, right? And you could tell he was a jock. You know, he was wearing his like lacrosse hat and his button-down polo or whatever, and his khaki pants. And he walked through the park, and we all like descended out of the bushes and the trees and started chasing him. Like 40, 50 people started chasing him. He ran so fast. And then after that, nobody ever got bothered again. Like, nobody was getting threatened. There was no jocks versus freaks anymore. In fact, they were afraid of us. Like, they were scared of us after that. Because we were like, look, okay, you can't just individually go around beating up one person at a time. Like, just because you're bigger than them. It's like, we will bring black guys with guns next time. Like, so it really did change the dynamic, like, completely, of like whatever dynamic was there before. And I mean, if you are younger and you don't know, like, this movie Dazed and Confused, check it out. It's definitely an interesting movie. Show you how things kind of were in the past, because it's supposed to take place like in like the 70s, even though it was made in the 90s. So because it was very similar, like in the 90s it was very similar, like, because times didn't change as rapidly. So like if you look at this movie, it was pretty much the same as it was in the 90s, except for that addition of like a huge population of like black people, basically. So that's the video. That's all I wanted to cover. I'll probably be back in a bit. Until then, talk to you later, and peace.